Tonight, Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland resigns from cabinet, forcing the federal House leader to deliver the fall economic statement. He lost his friends in the Broncos bus crash, but the tragedy inspired this Humboldt man to pursue his bobsleigh dreams. And the journey one Saskatchewan man took to run 7 marathons in 7 days on all 7 continents.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Monday, December 16th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. I'm Ethan Williams in for Sam McKeag. Thanks for joining us. In a stunning move, Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland has resigned from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's cabinet. The news comes on the day she was to deliver the government's fall economic statement. And as Rafi Boudjikanian reports, it has fired up the opposition and rattled the Liberal government.
From a minister's departure Justin Trudeau knew about,
I've advised the Prime Minister earlier this fall that I will not be seeking re-election as a Member of Parliament for Central Nova during the next campaign.
to another that landed as a bombshell. Christia Freeland, instead of delivering a fall economic statement, publishing this letter, where she wrote, "On Friday, you told me you no longer want me to serve as your finance minister and offered me another position in cabinet. The only viable path is for me to resign." Also saying she and Trudeau have been at odds about the best path forward for Canada, calling out costly political gimmicks the country can ill afford as it faces U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's tariff threat.
What the I mean, how does the Prime Minister, on the eve of a statement that we've been waiting for months, deep six his finance minister and think that things are going to be normal?
The reviews from some of Trudeau's own caucus no less scathing.
Let's put it this way. Firing a Minister of Finance who has served you extremely well is not what I would call a trustworthy move. And that's all.
Should he resign?
Yes.
I've been a great defender, but I just don't see how we move forward. I think he needs to go, yeah.
Calls echoed by the opposition.
Now is the time for a carbon tax election to turn the decision away from me or Mr. Trudeau.
I'm calling on Justin Trudeau to resign. He has to go.
While Trudeau hurriedly had veteran cabinet member Dominic LeBlanc sworn into finance,
do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear.
As other ministers had this to say about Monday's events.
The moment now is for us to focus on the best interest of Canadians. That's what we're doing.
Christia Freeland is a good friend, someone I work with very, very closely as President of the Treasury Board and Minister of Transport. This news has hit me really hard.
At least 6 Liberal MPs have publicly called on Trudeau to resign today as he meets with his caucus to discuss next steps. Rafi Boudjikanian on CBC News, Ottawa.
And Freeland's sudden resignation added a new element of uncertainty to discussions between the country's premiers. They are meeting in Ontario this week after being called to the table by Ontario Premier Doug Ford to develop responses to the threat of Donald Trump's trade tariffs. Olivia Stefanovic has the details.
Seizing the moment to send a message to the U.S. and the federal government.
This is a time for the premiers to step up, which we're going to.
Provincial and territorial leaders gathering together for the first time in person amid political turbulence on both sides of the border.
And make no mistake about it, we may have our differences, but we're a united group of premiers.
When there's a threat of tariffs, we can't just sit back and roll over. We have to show that we have strength.
Northern premiers say they're on board to take aggressive countermeasures if the U.S. president-elect moves forward with plans to slap 25% tariffs on Canadian goods.
We need to do things like that to ensure that, we get the respect of Donald Trump. If we just roll over, how's he going to respect us?
The incoming Trump administration is threatening steep tariffs unless Canada stops the flow of illegal migrants and hard drugs like fentanyl across the border.
We need to be making those decisions, those investments, and come together collectively as a country on issues without having somebody do it in another country through a tweet.
The Premier of the Yukon says it shouldn't have taken a social media post by Donald Trump for the federal government to address the fentanyl crisis.
We have to give a little pause in the fact that we really need to commit to this now because it's been affecting so many of us across this country for years.
Our priority must be to settle the problem on the border. We still have some people coming at the airport and then moving illegally to United States.
Addressing those concerns hit a major snag today when Christia Freeland suddenly resigned from cabinet, a decision she says she made after the Prime Minister told her she would be moving from finance.
I think she had a difficult choice to make, and she made it.
On a day like today, I would hope that Canadians are reassured by looking at this table and seeing that the premiers are unified.
Premiers say they'll continue building on the work they've started here when they travel to Washington, D.C. to meet with members of the U.S. Congress in the new year. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Mississauga, Ontario.
A 2-month GST holiday kicked in on Saturday, dropping the tax for consumers on certain items. The federal government announced the plan in November to temporarily waive the 5% goods and services tax. It applies to dozens of items: prepared foods, restaurant meals, snacks, alcohol under 7%, children's clothes, toys, books, newspapers, and Christmas trees. The federal minister of small businesses says it will help ease affordability concerns during the holiday season.
This is the time of the year when many Canadians go out and spend money. And on the flip side, this is really going to help boost sales for small businesses, especially during the slower months of the year like January and February. What happens is, small businesses, they get a rush of sales during the holiday season, which ends up being a peak. And then in January and February, typically what happens is it's their slowest time of the year. Their sales end up going down to a slump. With the GST tax break, this is going to help small businesses have sustained sales right through January and February.
And as a shopper, you should automatically receive the tax breaks on the qualifying items that you buy. Generally, you don't need to save your receipts, only if you are charged GST on a qualifying item by mistake. And in that case, you should ask for a refund from the retailer. The break is scheduled to last until February 15th. Binding arbitration is underway between Saskatchewan's teachers and the provincial government. The two sides are presenting their arguments to a 3-person panel in Saskatoon this week. Wages and a class complexity accountability framework are at stake. The panel will hear presentations and then deliver a legally binding written report. Its conclusions will then be part of a new contract. Teachers in Saskatchewan have been without a deal since August of 2023, and they held a number of job actions across the province earlier this year. Well, there seems to be a hockey card gold rush right now, and everyone wants in. But it's left 2 Saskatchewan men out thousands of dollars for cards ordered but never received. Liam O'Connor has that story.
Earlier this year, there was a collector craze as NHL superstar Connor Bedard's rookie card was released. People were lined up outside shop doors trying to get a hold of one of those valuable cards. But big money items come with big risk. In Saskatoon, Jordy Gagnon says he's out more than $5,600. Gagnon ordered a case of Upper Deck hockey cards through e-transfer. The case was released October 30th. He never got those cards or his money back. Then he started getting worried.
And somebody made a post on Facebook saying, has anyone heard from this guy, because we can't get a hold of him. Well, at that point, my heart sunk into my chest.
Another collector in Regina found himself with the same problem. Rocky Durso says he's out more than $6,000.
My birthday's in November, so it was a birthday gift for myself. So when I found out about this, it's, it kind of, I wasn't feeling too good about it. Let's put it that way. But.
Both men ordered from a Quebec-based seller, Maxime Brown. They say they are among dozens of other across Canada who've gone to the police. CBC tried to interview Brown, but he refused to come on camera. He did, however, answer most questions sent over email. In his words, Brown says he's not a scammer. He's blaming his bank for the lack of refunds, saying his accounts are frozen due to credit card chargebacks. Brown also says he's in contact with those who paid him for those cards. And the company Upper Deck, it says Brown is not authorized to sell its products.
For me, I would like restitution, right? I mean, this retailer, Maxime Brown, has has said he's going to pay people back, but he's been non-communicative.
Brown says 12 people have received total refunds and that another 12 have received some of their money back. He would not commit to a timeline for the rest of refunds, but maintains it will be done as soon as possible. Liam O'Connor, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Well, a weekend of melting and snowy and sometimes rainy weather wreaked havoc on some of our highways. And for the start to the week, well, a little more light and drifting snow in the Queen City. We picked up about 1.5 centimeters overnight Sunday into Monday. Looks like we'll have a bit of a roller coaster, though, temperature-wise this week before our next snowstorm takes aim at our province. Stay tuned. I will have more on that in your full forecast after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. A Saskatchewan man is taking the first step in pursuing an Olympic dream. Luke Pudo is headed to Europe to compete in the World Cup for bobsledding in January. And as Helena Mahalik tells us, that dream was born from a tragedy that shook our province and personally impacted Pudo.
A Humboldt-based athlete is taking a big step in pursuing a newfound Olympic dream that arose out of the tragic Humboldt Broncos crash. Luke Pudo spent his teenage years playing hockey in Humboldt. He said during that time he was dreaming big and had hopes of being in the NHL. But after losing several friends in the 2018 crash, he took a step back from the sports world. Pudo was inspired to get back to pursuing his dreams after he helped clean out the room of his late friend Jacob Light. Pudo said he found notes that Light's dream was to be an RCMP officer after he was done playing hockey. Pudo realized he had to move forward in life, but instead of getting back into hockey, he decided to pursue bobsledding.
It is a sport of second chances. I think every single person in bobsleigh, whether they're here or in Europe, has been in another sport, and they've gone and essentially they've either failed or they've kind of reached the natural end at their other sport, and they've come into bobsleigh to try to find a second life in sport, and that's exactly what I needed, and so it fit the bill from that.
Now, Pudo is pursuing his dream of making it to the Olympics. He will be competing at the Europe World Championships in January.
It's all about scoring as many points as we can, qualifying all 3 sleds for World Championships, and then having a strong performance at World Championships. Basically, to qualify as many sleds for the Olympics, we just need to keep scoring points.
Pudo is on the team of one of Canada's top male bobsleigh pilots, Pat Norden. They competed in North America before the holidays and will take a giant step forward onto the World Cup circuit in January. Pudo said he's looking forward to competing in Europe because the routes are less about speed and more focused on turns. Pudo returned home to Humboldt for the holidays, where he will train until the new year. Helena Mahalik, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Well, running a marathon is an ambitious goal for most people. Now imagine doing 7 of them in 7 days. And if that's not enough, doing them around the world. A retired Saskatchewan man took on the challenge and survived to tell us about it.
We've done Antarctica! We've done Africa! We've done Australia!
It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, and we were just surviving on very little sleep and just adrenaline.
Around the world in 7 days.
It's called the Great World Race. It's 7 marathons in 7 days on all 7 continents. My name is Reg Willick. 62 years old, spent most of my life working in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
We're here, marathon number 1, Antarctica.
There was a group of 60 runners, and they chartered a special plane to be able to make it to all 7 continents. Our first race was in Antarctica, so we flew from Cape Town, South Africa, 5-hour flight to Antarctica. We ran the race in Antarctica, flew back to Cape Town, and then we slept for about 2 hours, and the next morning we ran in Cape Town. So that's Africa continent. And then from Cape Town, we had an 11-hour flight to Perth, Australia. And so that would be the Australia-New Zealand continent. And then from Perth, Australia, we flew, it was a total of 18 hours of flying and stopping for fuel to Istanbul, Turkey. And Turkey, we ran Asia and Europe. So Istanbul, Turkey sits on the border between Asia and Europe. And then from Istanbul, we flew to 15-hour flight to Cartagena, Colombia in South America. So that was our South America. And then from there, we flew 3 hours to Miami for the North American continent. And I was all done within 7 days. I started running marathons when I was 50. So actually my first marathon I ever ran was the Regina Queen City Marathon about 12 years ago. And I swore after I did that marathon, I would never run another one in my life. And now I've done 21. I ended up running all 6 major marathons, which is Boston, Berlin, Tokyo, London, Chicago, and New York. Once I got those done, I was looking for another challenge, and I found this Great World Race. It was hard. It was tough. You had to push yourself. I survived way better than I ever expected. That's thanks to my short, chubby Canadian hockey legs.
The weather update is brought to you by Capital Ford Lincoln. Year-end clearance is on now.
Well, it might feel like running a bit in Antarctica in parts of our province as we see a look at out of our Saskatoon Tower Cam this evening, where we have some clearing skies in some parts of the province, but also temperatures beginning to drop. We'll take a look at daytime high temperatures through the province today, and you can see they range really from kind of the mid to minus teens or so up in far northern Saskatchewan, down to about the mid minus single digits in southern Saskatchewan and central areas. But keep in mind, a cold front has actually been dropping those temperatures through Monday through many of southern and central areas. Cloud cover continuing to hang around. We did see some clearing skies out near the Saskatoon area a little bit earlier on this Monday, but much of the rest of us staying under the influence of some cloud cover, and that's going to continue over the next couple of days, I think, as we see another snowy systems start to move in. For the north, we've been seeing some snow through periods of Monday. That'll be clearing out into Tuesday. Before that cloud moves back in, though, for later into Tuesday and into the evening hours, we are expecting an area of high pressure to move in, and that'll clear things out as we head into Wednesday. But as that moves away, that quickly makes way for our next low pressure system, which is going to be moving in from Alberta, and this will bring a very widespread area of some heavy snow at times to particularly southern Saskatchewan, but central areas expecting this as well. The border sort of along that Highway 16 corridor. And this will be kind of starting into the noon hour Wednesday and probably lasting until the wee hours of Thursday morning. That quickly moves out, but we are left with some lingering cloud cover and flurries for Thursday. So I want to show you two different weather models here. This is kind of the worst case scenario for snowfall. As you can see there's a corridor through parts of southern Saskatchewan that's calling for maybe 20 to 30 centimeters of snow. This is just one model. There's another model here that I want to show you that puts this more in the range of maybe 15 to 20 centimeters. Nonetheless, for especially areas like Moose Jaw, Regina, Weyburn, Estevan, we're probably in for a good dump of snow here come midweek. And then as you can see, north of Highway 16 there, those amounts really quickly drop off. As that system begins to move in, we'll start to see the winds pick up too. So blowing snow likely going to be a factor midweek. So if you have travel plans Wednesday, Thursday, maybe even Friday, it'll be a bit of a blustery one and we're going to probably see visibilities reduced. And those roads already not great in spots, continuing to be that way. After that snow moves out, even before that, things are going to get a little chilly. Tuesday night into Wednesday, I think we're looking for some lows near minus 30, even in parts of south and central Saskatchewan. And then another bit of a cold night on Thursday, as you see there in our extended forecast for Regina. And again, I've put maybe 10 to 20 centimeters for right now for Regina. And then there's that colder air that moves in. But things very quickly warming up in time for the weekend. For Saskatoon, it's kind of tough to tell at this point. I've said about 5 to maybe 15 centimeters at most with that system. We'll see a similar drop in temperatures, but then nice sunshine and warmth just in time for the weekend. Well, 'tis the season for BHP's 26th annual Enchanted Forest in Saskatoon. It looks much nicer at night, I will say. It's one of the longest running Christmas light displays in the country. The drive-through display runs each night from 5:30 to 10 p.m. at the Forestry Farm Park. It does cost to go through, $10 per person or $35 per vehicle. Kids under 5 are free, and the proceeds are shared by the Saskatoon Zoo Foundation and the City Hospital Foundation. Stay with us. We are back after the break. Canada Post workers have been ordered to end their strike and be back on the job Tuesday. 55,000 members of the Canadian Union of Postal Workers have been on the picket lines for about a month. On Sunday, the Canada Industrial Relations Board ordered an end to the work stoppage. The board has ruled that the two sides are at an impasse and unlikely to reach a deal before the end of the year. Business groups and consumers had been calling for government intervention. The strike has interfered with holiday shopping and deliveries. Creative City Centre in Regina is trying to raise $1 million. The nonprofit artist-run community arts centre in downtown Regina is working toward a new building project and renovations. It'll be moving from its home on Hamilton Street to a bigger accessible space on Cornwall Street. The new location will have a performance space, art gallery, classroom, recording studio, and many other creative spaces. Over the weekend, a book sale helped support the capital campaign.
We expect to be open by September of next year, so September 2025. We'll be probably celebrating that whole month with a month-long grand opening with music concerts and poetry nights and visual art exhibitions and workshops, lots of things for people to do. So we're excited. We're happy to see it moving forward.
The new centre is expected to open by September 2025. The plan is to celebrate with a month-long grand opening with lots of creative content for the public to attend. Well, temperatures tonight around -15 to -20 for a lot of south and central. We'll be starting off with cloud cover, although I think a little bit of clearing possible in some sections overnight. For northern Saskatchewan, again, not a bad night when you compare it to normals for this time of year, -20 to 25, with the possibility of some snow continuing, maybe another couple of centimeters in some far northern locations. But that should be out of here by early Tuesday morning, and we'll actually see some sunshine through much of the north tomorrow, a sun-cloud mix for many locations, and maybe even a mostly sunny day a little out further west with highs near -20. Again, starting on somewhat of a cloudier note, but you see that clearing through south and central as we get into the noon hour, and by about the 4 o'clock hour or so, a lot of us going to be seeing some peaks of sun, especially in central areas the further northwest you are. Temperatures, though, staying on the chilly side, a bit below seasonal, -15 to -20, but the winds should be lighter, so that won't be adding too much of a wind chill. And that is it for us tonight. For more news anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/sask, subscribe to our CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel, or download the CBC News app on your smartphone or tablet. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.